I was cutting firewood in a designated timber cut area with my brother, approximately halfway between Cody and Yellowstone. We were south of the highway, very near the north bank of the North Fork, an easterly flowing tributary of Buffalo Bill Reservoir. The timber in this area is not dense and affords good views of the high north-facing mountain slopes south of the river. Shortly before sundown, I noticed movement up on the slope across the river. At first, I concluded that it must be a bear or elk and pointed it out to my brother. My brother fetched the binoculars from the pickup just to have a closer look, as we are hunters and like to keep track of where we see elk. At first, he seemed startled in that he didn't recognize what he was looking at. Rather than jump to a conclusion, he handed me the glasses and asked me to have a look. By the time I got the glasses up, the animal had disappeared into the tree line, and I couldn't see it. Shortly after, I noticed it again lower down on the slope in a small clearing, moving all the while. At this point, I would estimate the creature at a quarter mile from us, moving closer, down slope towards the river. This time, I got a good look at it through the glasses. It was definitely, unmistakably upright, walking on two legs. Though there is no way to say at this distance, the specimen appeared to be between 6 and 10 feet in height. More striking, however, was its mass. The creature, covered in dark hair, almost seemed fat, maybe obese. This was no bear. I saw it walk for a good 100 yards, and it never came down on all fours. There is something on the North Fork that I have sure never seen before. About a half an hour after my last sighting, we were loading the truck. The chainsaw wasn't running, so we could hear reasonably well. The river makes some noise. Right before we left, almost completely dark, I heard a high-pitched, eerie squealing noise coming from a few hundred yards upriver. I have never heard anything like it, though it is about the right time of year to still hear elk bugle. This was no elk, ladies and gentlemen. The sighting was witnessed by my friend and myself, both of whom are geologists, while driving into Yellowstone from Cody for employment at the park for the summer. My friend was taking his turn at driving, and I was soaking up as much as I could and see, as well as providing a running commentary to keep my friend alert driving our long drive. As we came around a curve in the road, our high beams illuminated a large, dark, shaggy figure coming up out of the ditch on the left side, south of the road, at a distance of about 250 feet. As we approached the figure, at a speed of about 45 miles an hour, it looked first at the vehicle. We noticed the yellow reflection from its eyes that is seen in a dog's eyes when light catches it at night. Then it deliberately turned its head away from the lights. That motion was non-human or bear-like, in that the shoulders, chest, and head moved simultaneously as it caught sight of our vehicle and then turned its face away from the headlights. We slowed. Well, actually, we slammed on the brakes, stunned at what we were seeing and trying to rationalize what we were looking at. Some sort of hominid creature, perhaps 7.5 feet tall in height. We have a 7-foot-tall friend as a reference, massing perhaps 600 to 800 pounds without obvious signs of obesity, standing completely and comfortably upright, came up out of the ditch from the left side of the road, right at the edge of the metal barrier above the culvert. It took 3 extraordinarily long and fluid strides across the highway, 22 feet in total, and another 3 of 4 shorter strides down the other side of the road, actually appearing to catch hold of the metal barrier and railing with one long, fingered hairy hand, with finally swinging down under the road into the box culvert or channel bottom, completely out of our line of sight. We stopped the vehicle within 25 feet of the culvert and watched the final descent of the creature into the darkness of the channel. At this point, we sped on toward the east gate of Yellowstone National Park, hoping to find a ranger to report the sighting to, and perhaps to go back and take another look. There was nobody at the gate, due to the late hour, and we didn't see any lights on anywhere. So we just continued on to our destination and went to bed, deciding not to contaminate each other's observations with discussions until morning. In the morning, we both independently described graphically and in writing as much of what we had seen 6 hours before. This is a synopsis of our finding. There were virtually identical down to the movement of which leg moved first as the creature crossed the road. The head appeared to merge into the neck, and there was no snout or protrusion from the face as would be commonly seen in a bear. Trust me, I've seen hundreds, up close and in person. The face was not clearly visible and was only glimpsed for a moment. We both got an impression of long hair covering some of it. The nostrils were large and open, but neither of us were able to describe mouth or teeth. The eyes weren't exceptional, just the reflection of gold, just like a dog's. What each of us can still describe with great clarity is the size, shape, and unique fluid movement of the creature. It was large, easily 7 to 7.5 feet-ish, but not much bigger than that. It was very heavy and powerful looking. In shape, it possessed a rather blocky, yet elongated head, slightly domed on the top of the cranium, thick, short neck, broad shoulders, and a full chest. It was square and longer through the torso and hips than a human. As it walked across the road in front of us, the buttocks were clearly seen as muscular masses moving under heavy, shaggy fur. They obviously attached to long, powerful muscular thighs, longer in proportion to a human. Big knees that functioned as a human knee. Thick, muscular calves and feet in proportion to the rest of the oversized body. The soles of the feet appeared to be hairless, or less covered in hair and very dark in color. The arms hung from heavily muscled shoulders and were longer than a human, reaching to the knee length and extending fully, and almost a horizontal position to the front and rear of the body as it moved. The elbows were perhaps a little further down the arm than on a human, or the usual length of the arm made it appear so. The hands were large and long-fingered. Neither of us could really describe the palms, nails, or other than the backs of the hands, which were covered in the same long, shaggy, dark brown hair as the rest of the creature. The creature made no sound nor gesture throughout the sighting. It appeared a little startled at our vehicle appearing out of the night, but in no other way frightened or threatened. It certainly startled both of us, though, that's for sure. April 20th, 2003. A friend and I were carrying in supplies on foot to a bear bait site, about 2 miles west of Highway 89 in Wyoming. This area is restricted to foot or horseback only, and is on the Idaho-Wyoming border. I had carried in the bait barrel and some bait items a week earlier, having noted some bear tracks in the snow along the creek on the first week of April. We walked along the foot trail early morning, and about a mile in, came upon the fresh carcass of a muskrat right on the trail, which was about 30 feet up from the creek and along the bend of the mountain. We were both startled by the dead muskrat, because there was just no evidence of a predator in sight. I suggested that it may have been dropped by an eagle, but honestly, there had been no sightings of eagles on our walk either. Another mile in, and we began placing our bait in the barrel, having noted that the bait was already there, that had not been disturbed by anything. We were preparing to leave the site when we heard the cracking of branches, and looking in the direction of the noise, we watched a large piece of tree tumbling down the mountainside towards us. About 400 yards up on the ledge stood something bipedal, the color of a moose, leaning against the remains of a tree. I nudged and asked my friend, "What is that?" He replied, "Must be a moose." And I answered, "But it only has 2 feet." He did not reply, but started walking back to the trail. I looked back at the animal, which was at least 8 feet tall as best as I could estimate. Very broad at the shoulders, with legs that appeared long and thin compared to the rest of its body. It was hard to make out the shape of its head, as I couldn't see a neck, and its head appeared to be bent, looking down the mountain towards us. It then quickly moved behind the broken tree and into the tree line. I wish I had brought my binoculars that day, but in our haste to get on the trail that morning, I accidentally left them in the truck. My feeling while returning along the trail to the truck was almost myself being stalked, a strange role reversal. My friend moved quickly down the trail. No words spoken about what was on that hillside. When I recounted the experience a couple months later to friends, I had forgotten all about the part about the dead muskrat, which my friend quickly interjected to them as a very disturbing incident to him. Yet he laughed when I told them we may have seen a Bigfoot, which he readily dismissed. This bearbait site, coincidentally, is along a drainage that connects to a larger creek near where a year ago I had heard some strange and disturbing sounds on a mountain pass while hunting deer